Well, good morning to you this morning. I'm Pastor Joey, and it's great to welcome you here. And I would just reaffirm the song that you just sang, Turn Your Eyes Upon Jesus. And all you've got to do is look. That's all you got to do. Jesus said, if I be lifted up, I'll draw all men unto me, all women unto me, all the world to me. What did he mean? When I'm lifted up in crucifixion, and I offer my life as a sacrifice for the world, if I be lifted up, I'll draw all people to me. And that's what happened in his life. He was lifted up in crucifixion and sacrifice. And all we have to do is look. And sometimes we're so weak we can hardly reach out and take his hand. But he said he didn't say it that way. He said, just look. Just look on me. You'll have life and life abundantly. And I can tell you this morning, I stand here as a follower, I hope a loyal follower of the one true risen God who showed up in the world in Jesus, the greatest story ever told. And we're going to be amplifying that story in the next several weeks coming up, so don't miss a Sunday of that. I think you'll be blessed as we make our journey together. But if you need Christ, what a wonderful day and wonderful time of year to reach out to Him and just look to Him. If we just simply look, He has life. And you're here today probably because there's something in you that wants to look, that wants to gaze upon Him, that wants to behold Him, and to see what He has to say to you today. And so we're going to be looking at a passage that we began to look at last week. We looked at Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 through 3, and I talked to you a little bit about that passage. And what I want to do is elaborate a little more and talk a little bit more about an application that I want to make out of that passage. I ran a little short on time last week and didn't get to talk to you about all the things I wanted to talk to you about. And specifically, of course, we're talking to everybody this morning, but we've got some college kids that are still in town. They'll be headed out today. By the way, be careful. Wind chill is going to go up. Temperatures are going to drop. And watch out for drifting. Be careful on your way home. We've already been praying for you in that regard. So I want to talk to you a little bit about fixing our eyes on Jesus, not a screen. Okay, and that's an appropriate sermon title for today. There are resources in the YouVersion app. If you've got a smartphone, feel free to access those. Some of the things I'll be saying today will be found right there. And then also, I want to talk to you about how to get the most out of church in 2016. How can I get the most out of church? I realize that maybe this is the time of year that people say, well, you know what? Maybe my resolutions maybe they center on, goals I want to accomplish or so many things I want to do. Maybe it's fitness goals, financial goals, relational goals. And this is the kind of the time of year when people start setting resolutions. And I think there's probably two kinds of people in the world, right? Those who set resolutions and those who hate people who set resolutions. That's the two kind of people in the world, right? So resolution's kind of bittersweet for us. But maybe this is the time of year that you've decided to give church a try. And if so, I want to orient you to how you can get the most out of church, especially Stonesville Community Church, in 2016. And my hope is that we would always be a church that non-church, unbelieving people would love to attend. Wouldn't that be great? If we could be a church that non-believing people love to be a part of, love to come in and just sense the love and the atmosphere of the place, and maybe an idea or two that's shared, maybe they haven't thought about before. I think we can be that kind of church. I think you can be that kind of church. And one of the things that we can be is we can be friendly people, loving people. And so let's create that atmosphere in this upcoming series. Let's create that atmosphere where slide number 9, if you would, slide number 9. Let's create an atmosphere. Not only do we want to focus on some of the things that we've been focusing on slide number 9, I believe is what the number it is. Today is the day to start fresh. Okay, I've messed up. That's not it. Okay, let's go back. My numbering's off today. You're just going to have to go by what I'm saying, okay? I forgot to print the numbered slides, and so I may be mixed up on that. So let's just go for this, all right? So let's go to Hebrews 12, 1 through 3. Pull that up if you would for me. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, the imagery here, the metaphor is the guys running a race. So we're all running a race. And we're surrounded by a great crowd of witnesses. And so let us, hortatory subjunctive, let us, we may or may not, okay? It's a may or may not mood in Greek. So what you've got here is you've got a group of people who may or may not throw off. Some people are going to learn to live with extra weight, and they think it's going to be good, but it's not, and it's going to hinder their spiritual growth. So you're going to have some that relate to that group. But he says, let us. And he uses this hortatory subjunctive all throughout the book of Hebrews. And he says, let us, all over the book. And here's another place where he says, let us. Let us join together. You may or you may not, but I'm hoping by the end of the book, I can convince you to be a part of this group that says we're laying aside weight. And that's what we want you to do here. All because we want you to see Jesus more clearly. And we want you to thrive in your spiritual growth. We want 2016 to be one of the best years of your life. And we believe that it can be. And so let us, you, the church, me, all of us together, let's throw off everything that hinders. And not only that, there's some good things that we need to throw off, some good, wholesome things that we just need to set aside because it's hindering a very effective race that we might want to run, a better race that we might want to run. And then not only that, but some of us are just rejecting the right relationship with God in areas of our life. It's called sin in the Bible. It easily entangles us. It traps us. It runs us down. And so that we get in this cycle year after year. And so the Hebrew writer says, I want you to break out of that. Let us run. There it is again. Let us, may or may not mood. Some of you will, some of you won't, but I hope most of you will. Let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. And it is marked out for us. We can't choose it. It's marked out. The sovereign hand of God, the free will, human free will decisions people make, this thing gets marked out for us many times. And so it's important and imperative that we fix our eyes on Jesus. And that's the big phrase. We sang about it already. I've kind of talked about it last week. I reiterate it this week. I've got it underlined and highlighted in my notes here. Fixing our eyes on Jesus. The pioneer, perfecter of faith. He cuts his way through the mess and muck of our world. And he does it with the idea that there's joy set before him. That someday, after he endured the cross, he scorned its shame. And it was very shameful. It was a Roman execution device. They left these stakes up outside of the hills of Jerusalem, outside of the city limits. And they would just leave these stakes, and so they would carry their cross beams, and then they would fix those cross beams newly and fresh to the stakes that remained in the ground. They would fix those, and then they would crucify. So it was a public billboard for Rome. You defy Rome, this is what happens to you. Jesus endured all of it. All of it. Such that he could sit down at the right hand of the throne of God and thus complete salvation's plan. Having completed it, the Hebrew writer says, I want you to consider him who endured such opposition for sinners so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. Listen, 2016, I didn't say it was going to be an easy year. I didn't say it was going to be a year with no hills or obstacles or valleys to work through. But if you will fix your eyes on Jesus, you can make it. We can make it together. And I encourage you to do it today. And one of the reasons that we sink in areas of our life is because we've lost our fixed gaze on the Lord Jesus Christ. And you know, someone was saying not long ago how that we live in a post-Christian culture. And I'm not even so sure, though, they were making this point, and I agree with them. I'm not so sure that we can even say post-Christian anymore. It's as if it's never been Christian. You hear what I said? It's as if it's never been Christian in many people's thinking and worldview and the way they're looking at life. So it's not post-Christian. It's that we got to start from the assumption that the world is pagan. And it is. People are not familiar with the story of Jesus. They're not sure. They've shown up in a movie 30 minutes late. They have no idea what they've walked into. And we want to provide that orienting story. And as we focus our eyes on Christ, and we begin to see him, and we begin to lift him up and live for him, we do a little less sinking and a little more persevering and staying with the task at hand. You see, the Hebrew writers, they thought Moses was it. You know, they thought the angelic messengers were it, and they did well by thinking about these things. The prophets had great things to say, you know, and so they focused on that. But the Hebrew writer says, okay, you've done that. You've done religion your whole life. I offer to you a very living, dynamic person, and it is Jesus Christ. And I hold Him up, and it's time to focus on Him. Don't abandon this relationship with Him. And with as the same tenacity that a runner would have pushing toward a finish line, I want you to have that same tenacity when you keep your eyes and gaze fixed on Christ. Now, like I said, you know, in our culture, it's not so much the Mosaic Law that people want to focus on. Again, I don't know, this post-Christian is just pagan almost from the start now. It's not so much Mosaic Law, though, and angels and prophets and religious things that we fixate on today. That's what the Hebrew readers were fixating on. Religious people trying to figure out what it meant to follow Jesus in a world where it wasn't popular to do so. And they were going to step out of Christianity back into Judaism, a protected religion by the Roman Empire. I'll step back into Judaism. I'll enjoy all the privileges and protections of that. I don't have to do this Christian thing right now. Then when the persecution passes, I'll step back into Jesus. I'll walk with Jesus, and it'll all be good. Well, Hebrew writer says not so fast, because something happens in the heart when we go back and forth in our allegiances like that. And he says, I want you to fix your gaze on Christ. Not like the Mosaic Law, though it had a role and a place. Not angels, though they have a role and a place. Not prophets, though they definitely have a role and a place. And it's not so much that those are the things that we fixate on. It's our devices. Okay? It's our news feeds and posts, our followers and friends. Instead of love like you've never been hurt and dance like no one's watching, it is tweet like nobody is following and blog like nobody is clicking. That's the kind of world we live in. And sensing the addicting and distractive nature of technology a few weeks ago, even a few months ago, I think it's important that we look at that, especially in light of what the Hebrew writer is emphasizing. I read a book over the break, and it's #struggles. Greg Gershel is the guy that wrote the book. #struggles. For those of you who may not be technologically inclined, hashtag is like the little, I think it's just like a tic-tac-toe, a tic-tac-toe board thingy. All right, that's what that is. And then you follow it with a word, and like all the posts and pictures and things that are associated with that particular hashtag will show up on a feed somewhere. And that's kind of how he titles the book. And he says, Following Jesus in a Selfie-Centered World. That's crazy, isn't it? Following Jesus in a selfie-centered world. And it is. What's a selfie? Well, if you're younger, you don't need me to give you a definition of what a selfie is. In fact, most of you here can tell me what a selfie is if you're under 21 years of age or even 31 years of age. You're going to know what a selfie is. But for the rest of us, a selfie is a picture that you take of yourself. You hold your device out here, and they even have selfie sticks. Selfie sticks. You can put your device on the end of a stick, hold it out further, and thus capture a bigger picture. It's pretty neat, actually, what you can do with those things. But there's all kinds of popular selfies. And honestly, they can be kind of fun. There's the duck face selfie. Okay? You curl the lips and look kind of like a duck, even though a duck doesn't have lips. I'm still trying to figure that out. And over Christmas break, someone talked my wife's family into a duck face picture. So go to the duck face picture. I think it's slide 5, I think. This is, it's a picture of a family, and they all have duck lips. All right? If you could just pull that up real quick for me. Oh, it's not in there? Oh, working on. Okay. So, it's freeze on. Okay. So, anyway, maybe we'll come back to it. And that's probably a good thing because I did not ask permission to show that. So maybe God is intervening in a sovereign way, keeping me out of trouble. Okay? So, anyway, it looks like maybe have technical. If and when we get it up and going, give me a thumbs up. That way I'll know how to come back to it. Duck face selfie. There's the me and my best friend selfie. But be alert and aware that may take several attempts to get right for both friends to be happy with it. It may take several takes. And the way these phones are, my grandmother, my wife's mom, and so my mother-in-law, I asked her to take a picture of us and the kids while we were there in Kansas City visiting with Megan and David and things. And she took a picture and she gave it back to me. And actually, I thought she maybe took a couple pictures. And when she gave the phone back to me, I had 168 pictures on my phone. I didn't know they would do that. But anyway, they did. 168 pictures. Man, it just ate up all my data space. I had to delete like a ton of them. But yeah, you hold that button in and you're good to go. But there's the me and my best friend selfie. There's the me and my food selfie. All right? And that's crazy. Sometimes we get really hungry, don't we? We want to share the good news with others. There's me and my like I said, me and my pet self. The list literally goes on. There's millions of selfies, and it's easy to lose sight of Jesus in a selfie-centered world. And that's what this guy contends, and I agree with him. After you do multiple takes, you get the one that works right. You select the right one. You apply the appropriate filter. You create the perfect caption. You tag it with the appropriate hashtags, and you publish it to the world. It's a pretty involved process, but once you've done it a few times, it's pretty easy. The younger group knows how to do this pretty well. And admittedly, some of the pictures are incredible, and they're funny, and they're clever. And some of you have created a chuckle with me more than once, so thank you for blessing me with just a chuckle, because post one occasionally. I'm not going to think you're self-centered if you occasionally post a selfie. It's kind of fun. But here's the deal. I want you to know that it's okay if your picture isn't perfect. I want you to know it's okay. It's okay if you let your unfiltered life through a little bit. I just changed the filter a couple days ago at my house, and it's amazing how much dust can accumulate in those filters. And sometimes, we want to filter life, and in fact, I'm understanding today that young people are actually fear live interaction because you can't edit it, you can't really think about it, you can't. Okay, that's not up. Okay, that's the duck face selfie. Go ahead, show the duck face selfie. Can you? Still frozen? Okay, everybody on the count of 3, turn around and look at the back screen. 1, 2, 3. There it is. The duck-faced selfie. Thank you. We're good. Okay, here you go. All right. You go to the next selfie. Oh, by the way, go back to that one. Why is it that guys look so silly when they do the duck face, but girls look actually a little better? I don't know. But it just says so. So go ahead. There's your friend. Yep. Having fun. Next one here. Yep, that's me. My food selfie. There's my pet selfie. I just run a race like a day before. I was eating everything in sight. Eating fudge to the glory of God. And a big pizza. I mean, I was going at it hard. And I was talking to you last week about a race that I did. And I didn't realize. I assumed you knew more than I told. Maybe it's at Chain of Lakes. Nicole Emmert has run that race for several years, 31 miles. I only did the 10.8 mile thing, but she has done great. She was a great coach for me, and I really appreciated it. But I tell you what, I learned a whole lot of things, and one of the things I learned is how hungry you get when that thing is done. And so that thing was huge. Megan insisted. I didn't actually have a selfie stick. Megan insisted I'm taking a picture of this thing. Yes, it was big as half of my body. So next slide. Me and my pet selfie. Next slide. I don't know if okay, that's good. All right. So now you're caught up and you're up to speed. But I want you to know that it's okay with God if you let your unfiltered self show through sometimes, not just on social media, but in real life. And it's okay if you've messed up some life caption when you should have said one thing, but you said something different. It's okay. You're okay here. And we just want you to work on your stuff, And like I said, I got filters at home, and we're used to filtering everything. We edit emails before we send them. Probably that's a good idea. And we filter pictures before we post them. That's probably a good idea. We use the crop tool. That's probably a good idea at times. But there's something about just letting your unfiltered self be with others and letting that be who you are and knowing that that's okay. And that's part of just being an authentic Christ follower. When we look on Christ, we lose this need to filter so much. And it's okay if I just let you know, maybe I'm struggling, #struggle. It's okay. And I want you to know it's okay to have struggles in 2016. But I want to set you up to have a better year than maybe you would otherwise. And so that's why I say, to lift up Jesus and to focus on Him, because I tell you, I've lived His way so many times, and I just can't tell you the profound wisdom of that lowly Galilean in sandaled feet who tells me to love my enemy, who tells me to keep Him as a priority, who walks me through things like Sermon on the Mount and says this is the way you want to structure your priorities and your value center in your life. I've lived that way, and I tell you, life just goes so much better. I've chosen not to live that way, and boy, there have been consequences and repercussions from that. So I just hold out before you the Lord Jesus Christ, and maybe you're so weak this morning you can't even reach out for Him. Again, I say, look. That's all you have to do is look upon Him and let Him impact your life. Well, it's hard to do sometimes in the selfish-centered world. There's one young lady that wrote, "I simply can't stop no matter how hard I try. Once I post a picture," this is a quote on your bulletin, "once I post a picture, I go back immediately to see if someone liked it. And then, because rarely does anyone click like immediately, I'll refresh the screen again and again until someone does like it. And sometimes I'll even tell myself," she says, "I'm going to wait 10 minutes before checking again, but a minute or so later, I'm back for more affirmation. And if a picture doesn't get at least 20 likes in the first hour I post it, I take it down. For some reason, I just can't leave one up unless it gets the response I want. I know I shouldn't be this obsessed with it, but I don't know how to stop." It's true. And this is a struggle, especially for a younger generation. Or listen to this adult dad. Listen to this. "It happened again," he says. "The third time this season. My son Aiden is the star forward on his 12 and under traveling soccer team. And while I was supposed to be watching the game, I somehow got sucked into looking at my phone. And at first I was scanning a news app," he says, "and then I checked my Twitter feed, and then I glanced at my stocks, and that's when everyone started cheering. And Aiden, my son, had just scored a very rare and treasured left-footed goal. And after missing his first goal because I was on my phone, I promised it would never happen again, but it happened in game 2, and it just happened again. What's wrong with me?" he says. And it's not just a matter of time and focus misplacement. There's a lot of crazy things that happen in the world of the internet. And I just want to share with you one story. Greg Rochelle tells a little bit about this story. And I would just underscore it with the exhortation, the let us exhortation. Let's be careful what we post, when we post it, how we post it, what we say. We have to do a little filtering, like I said. A little filtering maybe is good from time to time in certain settings. And you have to be careful in the world of technology, in the world of the screen and devices, because if you're not careful, you can cross the line and you got yourself in a bunch of trouble in just a few clicks and a few seconds. Rochelle tells a story about Amanda Todd. Maybe you've heard this story. Of course, we send and we Snapchat and we tweet and we post and so on and so forth. And she was kind of caught up in that on September 7th, 2012. This is a true story. You can find her 9-minute video on YouTube. And there's a link in the resources for the message today. Amanda Todd's story, Struggling, Bullying, Suicide, and Self-Harm is the name of it. There are many, many videos that are offshoots of this. And other people have kind of taken it and used it. And so there's different versions of it. But in the video, you'll see a very shy and vulnerable girl. And she flips through handwritten note cards. And she details the pain that she's endured. She trusted someone on social media 2 years earlier. And she's a curious 7th grade girl. You know where this is going to go. A guy told her what she wanted to hear, flattered her in a lot of ways. And Amanda's new friend knew exactly what to say to entice her to do what he wanted her to do. And he wanted her to send something inappropriate to him via webcam and things. And she didn't think it all through when she did it, but she ended up doing that. And now he was using the picture to blackmail her into doing other things that he demanded that she do. And this is the world of the internet. And when she didn't comply, he made good on his threat, and he put her picture on the internet for all to see. And all of her friends at school saw it, her teachers saw it, her neighbors in the neighborhood saw it. It was a nightmare. And she says in her video, I can never get that photo back. It's out there forever. And her family moved to a new home and a new school to try to help her escape some of the stigma associated with her past. The man kind of follows along and he discovers maybe where she's at, and that becomes knowledge to everybody, and he contacts all of her new friends, and he posts her picture on his Facebook page, the inappropriate picture that he had conned her into sending to him. That forced her family to move yet again. She made some poor choices in her new neighborhood, and so this compounded into being beat up by some people. It compounded into a suicide attempt. And like I said, there's several versions of this available on YouTube. But on the version that I saw, the music plays in the background, and there's a sobering video here, and her face is almost invisible in the distance. And one by one, she cycles through those cards that reveals chapter after chapter of her painful story. And she admits she made mistakes, but the last 2 cards read, I have nobody. I need someone. My name is Amanda Todd. And the video ends. And on October the 10th, just 1 month after Amanda posted this video, she took her life. Here's a brief snippet of what her video looked like. I'm just going to give you an abbreviated version, about a minute and a half, to give you a feel for how this went for her. And that's her story. And a month or so later, she takes her life. And because she can't live with maybe what's happened, all the things that's happened in her life, based on just a boring evening, living in light of some very shallow compliments that prompted her to do something very simple. That was take a quick webcam shot and text it to somebody who she thought was really interested in her. And her life was never the same. And so I just want to stand before the new community and say, let's use technology as best we can. Post a selfie every now and then. That's kind of fun. That's all good. I've got family out of state. It's nice that I can post pictures and they can see, stuff in my life. They post pictures and I can see stuff in their life. And so that's awesome. You can support causes and things through social media. There's just so much good that you can do with it. But at the same time, there's this dark underbelly of all of this. And Amanda Todd's story is kind of a case in extreme point that what can happen. It's neat that, we can wish people happy birthday hundreds of miles away around the world. You can make travel plans. You can see the price of gas in your community. You can book a hotel in minutes, if not seconds. It can tell you the weather forecast. A smartphone can tell you the weather forecast, where your daughter is. It can read the Bible to you. We'll be hearing about that in a couple of weeks. So we're going to use technology for good here. We want you to use them here in the worship service. We're okay with that. As you access tools as we're talking, okay, we're not anti-technology. It's a tool that can be used. But you young ladies, you young junior high girls and young junior high guys and high schoolers and even adults, again, the guy missing his son's left-footed soccer goal moment. It's stuff like that. that it's taking our eyes off of really what's important to Jesus. And it's focusing on somewhere else, and it's really it creates a sinking feeling in our lives. And here's what the social engineers and scientists are telling us, that when people engage in social media, they like the connection, but they feel lonelier than ever. And they just start craving real, live, unfiltered, uncropped, unedited interaction with another human being. They crave that, and they want that. And so, as we look at what some of the things that technology and things, some of the patterns and things that we're developing, what we're seeing as well is many times social media leaves us more depressed. You see your former girlfriend having a good time with a guy that's not you, and it drives you into depression. Or you see a former boyfriend, and so that is something that weighs on you. So you visit social media hoping maybe to get a happy birthday greeting, and you get that picture, and then now all of a sudden it's like, man, today is not the day for me to start fresh. I'm mad. Okay? I'm depressed. I'm discouraged. I don't know that I wish I hadn't looked at that today, right? And so we get some of that going. There's a desensitization effect. You can see someone making little swirlies on the top of their coffee in one picture, and the next picture somebody's losing their head in another country. And we scroll on. Just keep going. It desensitizes. We have no way, and Groeschel kind of points this out from others who've done studies, we have no way of realizing what's important and prioritizing, so we desensitize to all the things that we see roll past our screen. And then, of course, there's a feeding frenzy effect. Something goes viral. The news media, of course, is crazy on this. And then also social media has become something of a popularity tool, that we want to see how popular we are. And so we look for the little red notifications that tell us maybe we're important. And if this many people like something, that must be an indication of pretty important. In fact, there's an app that you can get. I've not downloaded or used it, but it's an app that generates likes for your stuff from false people, fake people. Yeah, it's crazy. So you may have only like 15 friends, but you got 450 people that liked it. Okay? And those of you in the young people in the media world, you know what I'm talking about. This is how people are losing their identity in Jesus. They're finding identity in a social world of media. And they're looking to that for affirmation. Well, I feel blue today. I'll go to my social media and see if I can get picked up that way. I'll find my identity in that. And so one person said, the more I use social media, I've already said this, the more I crave personal interaction. And so I just want to stand before the new community here on this second Sunday of a new year and just say that face-to-face will always beat. It will always surpass and trump screen-to-screen. Always. Screen-to-screen is good as a tool, but face-to-face is what you really, really want. It's what I really, really want in my heart of hearts. And while preparing this message this week, thinking about, applying this phrase here in the book of Hebrews, how fixing our eyes on Jesus, how appropriate is that phrase for this modern social dilemma that's being created by the social media world. And how even in that ancient time, he's saying something that's so relevant to where we are. And as I was preparing this, I came across on my media, on my Twitter feed, ironically, I came across a quotation, so it can be used for good. And it was a Charles Spurgeon quotation. The text says, like I said, to fix our eyes on Jesus. But Spurgeon says, so many times we don't. And Spurgeon says, it is not our eye on Him which is our great protection, but His eye on us. Isn't that wonderful? How many times have we failed to keep our eyes fixed on Jesus? And we've sunk as a result of it. We've gotten into trouble. We lost sight of Him. And yet we have the assurance in this passage. The joy that's set before Him, He endured the cross. He scorned its shame. His eyes were fixed on us in that moment. And so this morning, if your identity comes more from who follows you or who likes you, this morning, if your identity comes from what they say or what they think about you or a picture that you've posted rather than who God says you are, it's time to start fresh. It's time to start with a new identity, a new reason for living. And you have value this morning regardless of notifications. You have value this morning regardless of likes. You have value this morning regardless of digital friends or acquaintances. You have value this morning regardless of followers. And yes, it's fun to be liked. It's fun to be followed. It's fun to be friended. It's fun to be retweeted. Okay, yes. But I find myself yearning for love. Learning for His presence. Yearning for the goodness and the beauty and the truth that comes through Jesus Himself, who offers Himself. Not digitally, but in real terms. He offered Himself to the world. You can use words and pictures and images and comments to do so much good out there in the world of social media. And I would just encourage you to let Jesus shine through every post, every picture, every comment, every interaction. Yes, confront what you have to confront. Yes, promote what you have to promote. But let Jesus shine through in 2016. And let Him follow Him in a very selfie-centered world. You know, Amanda Todd needed a church. She needed a church family. And she needed a group of people that would come in alongside and help her build a new identity, and not based on some crazy late night picture she decided to snap and send it to some stranger that would ruin her life with it. And that stuff happens in our lives. We live out of character sometimes. We lose our sense of judgment sometimes. Good people. And then all of a sudden they make a bad decision and everybody in the world thinks they're just horrible. But yet they have these wonderful, wonderful traits in their life, and God-glorifying things that they've done in their life even, and we never see it because social media decided to sink them. And see, the church is a place where we don't let that happen. The church is a place we love families, and we love people who in a moment of weakness, a moment of, stupidity, we love and embrace them, we pull them in, we say, wait a second, your identity is new here. We understand you're creating something new. God's creating something new in you. You belong here. Let's set your past aside. We're going to give you wings to fly brand new in a brand new pattern. And that's Jesus. That's what He wants us to do. And that's what we endeavor to do. And you know, the Hebrew writer nails it again. I mean, I love these kind of New Year's hortatory subjunctives. Okay, these exhortations where he says, let us, and he gives us another one. Let's go to Hebrews 10:24 through 25 quickly here. Hebrews 10:24. There we go. He says, let us, there it is again, let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together, face to face. Okay, I love digital. Life Church TV is awesome, but eventually you got to get with a group of people and start growing with them. To be the body of Christ, to know that I can live unfiltered with a group of people that love me even though my pictures aren't right all the time. Okay? Some are giving that up today. Some are in the habit of doing that even. They've just decided to make church something that's optional in their life. But he says, I want you to spur each other on, encourage one another, all the more as you see the day approaching. One of the reasons you're sinking is that you're losing sight of Jesus. Another reason that you're sinking is you pulled away from the very real world of life and relationships. And that's going to be your undoing. You're going to Amanda Todd at the end of the day. You're going to Amanda Todd it because you can't do life that way. You can't. You're not fully human when you refuse to interact with other human beings. They help make you human. And so I just encourage you in that way. Now, as I answer the question, how do I get the most out of church in 2016? Okay, I just want to close on this practical note, okay? Because I realize we've got some here, new resolution, okay? Maybe going to church is your resolution. I'm going to go to church. I'm going to go to church more. And so this is my resolution. If that's your resolution, I want to give you 10 points to bear in mind as you attend church in 2016. Okay? First of all, have realistic expectations in 2016. Again, this is on the YouVersion app. If you go in the live section, you'll see our church there. Have realistic expectations. Okay? So if you're new to the idea of church, you need to give it at least 3 months to get acclimated, and you'll get used to the rhythm and flow of things, and you'll even, part of what we're doing now at 10 a.m., we have someone come out and just give us a walkthrough of the service. That kind of thing will help you. We want people, like if you ever bring a friend with you, especially in the upcoming series, if you bring a friend or something, you'll have an opportunity to know that, and the assurance of knowing, they're not going to leave the friend in the dust. They're going to actually help bring them up to speed, and they're going to make sure that, it's a place where we're going to take the time to walk people through the whole idea of church and have a realistic expectation of that. It may not be perfect. Things may not always go great. There may be glitches, but that's okay. We're going to have realistic expectations, and we're going to understand that sometimes it's not just a screen in front of me. That's the biggie. It's not just a screen in front of me. It's the person right here. There's a person back there. There's a person right in front of me in the chair. But sometimes that's a bigger priority than this or this or this. Okay? These are tools, but people is the priority. Jesus made them and loves them, and we should too. And so have realistic expectations. Secondly, keep your sense of humor this year. Okay, I'm going to say something stupid like we tweet or something like that. It's going to happen. Someone's going to mean to say we prostrate ourselves before you, God, and it's going to come out we prostate ourselves before you, God. You ever made that mistake? Okay? And by the way, some people going to church is about as fun as a prostate exam. So maybe there's some humor in that. But keep your sense of humor. Okay? Sometimes we mean prostrate, bowing, but sometimes it comes out prostate. And that's okay. We're not perfect. All right? Third, expect to see a few strange-looking people or people that might look a little different than you. Isn't it true that shouldn't a church attract all different types of people? Shouldn't we? Shouldn't we have strange-looking people in our midst from week to week? I think we should. Why? Because people feel loved here. And so that's what we want. And we want people to feel loved. No matter who they are, their identity, or some late night decision they made, we want them to feel love when we see them. And so let's make sure we convey that. Fourth, know that everybody in attendance is just like you. They're imperfect and they're learning with a long way to go. And that's true. Don't worry about the guy sitting 3 rows in front of you that chewed out the bank teller 2 days ago. Okay? Don't worry about the dude in the other section who's in the legal column of last week's paper. Don't worry about the mom who went off on the referee at the game, and she's sitting here in church. All right? And this is purely hypothetical. If that happened, no reference intended. All right? But see, we're just like you. All right? We have big aspirations, but we're hypocritical in our results. So church is a great place for all of us. All right? Fifth, to get the most out of church in 2016, a place where people like Amanda Todd and others, they need to plug in, okay? Fifth, don't expect to like everything. You may not like everything, and that's okay. You may not like the clothes I wear. You may not like the lighting. You may not like the fact that I don't try to always be gender inclusive in my pronoun usage. I don't worry about stuff like that. Okay? And you may not like it, but let me ask you a question. Why are you coming? Are you coming because you want to hear me say gender inclusive pronouns? Or do you want to see Jesus? Think about that. Why are you coming? And think about your deepest need and your deepest longing is to be in a right relationship with God. And that's why I prioritize it. That's why that's important. That's why we hold that up and we hold Jesus up above all these other little peripheral issues that we talk about. Okay, hastening along here. to get the most out of church in 2016, second Sunday of the year. Here we go. Listen to the words, the songs, the testimonies, the prayers, the message that we talk about. If you're invited to participate, participate. It's good. If somebody asks you to come up with one word that you can rally around for a season or maybe a lifetime, pick out a word and share it. Ask questions. If there's open mic time, get right up from where you're at and come to that open mic and be a part of it. And you will love church in 2016 if you'll take the time to engage and participate in that way. 7th, meet some people. All right? You can get in a Story Grow group. You can sign up for a brown bag with me. You can hang out and chat after church, before church, after church. Maybe you'll learn something about yourself or you didn't know, or somebody you didn't know. Maybe you'll begin to be a ministry in the body that you never thought you could be a ministry in. An area, maybe. 8th, ask questions of people who attend here. What's God like? Why are you a Christian? Why do you attend church? What advice do you have about life and family? Why is the Bible so special to you? Why do you prioritize it? Ask questions. This is a good way to get a lot out of church in 2016. And so I just encourage you to do this. Another thing, 9th, notice how people treat each other. Again, conflict isn't necessarily a bad thing. But I can guarantee you that if a people is committed to Jesus, they really focus on Him and lift Him up, they will have an intent to resolve conflict as it may happen in their lives. And I think any group of people who will commit to that, you're going to find the quality of people that are part of a church. And I'm not throwing down on other businesses and organizations, okay? But the quality of people you encounter at church is going to far surpass the bar crowd. It's going to far surpass the leagues and clubs crowd. It's going to far surpass the weekly tea time groups. The local body of Christ has a dynamic nobody else has, because Jesus is the center. He's the aspiring center of everything. Finally, don't just take everything in and never do anything with it. I preach, and teach, and exhort, and all that, and you serve, and many of you, are in ministry just like me, and you're doing things, and sometimes we get the sponge idea, and we just take in, we never do anything with that. If you want to have a great church year, 2016, take what you hear, take what you learn, take what others do in ministry and in your life, and turn that around, recycle that, and let it be a blessing to other people. And I dare say that by the end of 2016, you're going to look back and say, it wasn't just a hashtag struggle year. There were some, but because I oriented right early on, I had a great year this year. Challenges, yes. Struggles, yes. But I had a great year this year because God helped me to bring Him into front and center and focus. Okay? Now, we're going to close with this song. And I realize that it's getting icy out, and some of you may need to get on the road and get home, and some of you college students are going to be packing it up and going home going back to college, I'll say, one more time. But I just want to give you the opportunity for those of you who'd like to break out of the crowd. You'd like to break out of the crowd and just come forward and maybe just have a time of dedication prayer over you and your life. Maybe this would be the time to do that at the beginning of a new year. And so I'm going to pray, and then after I pray, they're going to fire up the song, closing song. Again, feel free to visit and get to know each other even a little better. All right? But I'm going to hang out up here in the front, and I'll have the prayer team come out too. And we'll just have a time of dedicating this 2016 year in your life to the Lord. Okay? So let's pray together. Thank you, God, for this day. Thank you for how you speak to us, and thank you for your love and your grace. We, so many times we haven't fixed our eyes on Jesus, and we understand that. And I just ask and pray that you would be with us here this morning. We're going to do a pie auction in just a second, and we, of course, everybody's going to be invited for lunch, and we hope that all of them can stay. And we want them to stay and understand, though, that there's some that will need to go. So we pray for them. And And then those who can stay, you will just watch over us and give us a good luncheon here together and a successful push here for the Crave auction and things. And that's going to happen in the upcoming days as well, the meetings and things. So we do definitely pray for that. But we also know that just for a few moments here as we transition from here to the luncheon area, that you would help us to make the spiritual decisions that we need to make and to prioritize our approach, not only to social media, but also to the new and underscored need of being with other people, unfiltered, uncropped, and just as we are. And I just pray and ask today, if there are those here who have been hurt in the past by things, social media generated things, that they would find in their heart the grace of the Lord Jesus. And they would find that they don't have to outrun their mess here. In fact, they could jump right in the middle of it. There's a group of people that will help, that will love them through that. And so I just pray for that in Jesus' name. Amen. Hey, stand with me. Remember now, there's lunch in the back, and it's going to be good. And we're a pie-making church. You won't be disappointed. All right? Feel free to go in there. You're dismissed. If you want to come up and pray with me, I'll be here hanging out, okay? Have a good day.